What's going on, guys? We are back. Friday, last day of the week. Getting a stream back out there. I hate to be offline for a full day. I can always handle it if I have a slight cough, not feeling well, something like that. It's really the first time. Sometimes my allergies mess me up. This is the first time I've really had kind of like a fever, sickness in a long time. So was offline yesterday. Hate to do it, but we're back today. We'll be good. Yeah, I'll be fine, guys. I feel great. It was just, I don't know what it was. I literally couldn't, well, you all know what it's like being sick. Anyways, guys, tons of stuff to cover today, especially since I wasn't able to be active yesterday. Not only that, Bitcoin's also moving today. We have Bitcoin breaking. I want to go a little bit smaller time frame today, looking at some levels that we haven't broke down as much, right? If we zoom out and look big picture and kind of ignore what's happening in the past 24 hours, for me, nothing's really changed, right? 41.42 is still kind of the key resistance, key target, key area that I'm looking for the bullish move, and I think that's probably the most important resistance on a lot of people's charts. That's still 41,400. The pivot held for a second time. Didn't get to cover this one. This was last night. Right? It's that little pullback to support. I still like Bitcoin as long as it's above 3880, right? So that's still holding for right now. I think that's still a really nice rule, a really nice guide there. Yeah, man, it's like every single time. Let me change that, guys. Sorry you can't see the price. I was editing, almost done editing my cycle low little educational video, so I was playing with that. Anyways, hopefully you can see price now. The guide or kind of little rule I have right now, I'm still liking Bitcoin above 3880 remains, right? That support held for a second time to in the past 24 hours, so I like that. And then we'll look at the smaller time frame stuff I'm looking at. If we look at the past 2 or 3 weeks, most of the moves have taken place on Friday or Sunday, so maybe we are gearing up for a move today. But I'll look at two different smaller confirmation points if you are more actively trading that I think you should be focused on. And then obviously we'll look at the alt side of things. I know a lot of alts have gotten pullbacks in the past 48 hours or so as Bitcoin gave a little bit of a scare. ADA is one of those alts, still my favorite alt, pulled back to kind of the area where I started building the position, right? So it's still sitting at around 1150, 1160. That's right where kind of my second set of buys have been. I still like ADA. ETH is the one that I highlighted today, and I think it's really one of the only ones that to me makes sense for potentially an ad buy or kind of a second buy. I just bought a little bit more myself. We'll cover what I'm seeing there, how I'm comparing that to a previous move we had from EOS actually. Not what I want. This is what I want. All right. Previous move from EOS actually over here on the right side of my chart. And I think these look really similar, whether you're actually looking at the pattern or you're kind of just going off that concept of consolidation at resistance, right, and expecting that resistance to break. I think these look very similar, so I'll talk about why I like ETH still, but keeping the bigger picture in mind is probably the most important for ETH. Right, thinking about the fork coming up and aiming for 0.041. So ETH and ADA are going to be two majors I want to continue to talk about. There's also a couple of Binance plays or mid-cap plays which I think deserve updates. Key is one of my newer ideas from the past week, which is flirting with this invalidation level. And I know this is really close, but to me, it does, it scares me a little bit. I mean, this is kind of where the cycle low, I do think maybe it could be causing me to play some of these a little bit too tight, right? If I like the entry at 70 or 71 sats and it's only down 2 or 3 or 4%, my rule is that if we do have a daily close below that 71 sats, right, that's the lowest we've had it. So generally I don't like Key anymore, but if it does reclaim this level, I'd probably like Key again. So we'll talk about that one. I know some of you guys are still kind of playing around with either being in NEM or BNB. Both of them are really close to being back at break even. I know BNB got back to break even, but also both of these are generally not as interesting to me anymore. I think they both could work out, but I'll cover both those too. And then obviously we'll look at the update today of quite a few of you guys played RCN now. I love this because you guys got to play it twice, right? Especially the guys that were with me in December. Right, we played it for the first 30% play. I didn't play it this time, but saw quite a few of you guys who decided to play it again after we covered it in the stream last week. Right, so another one, 30%. This one, who knows, could even run for kind of 60, 70, 80%. It looks like that was a Palm Beach pick. So really just a testament to cycle low setup still working. I just think that's such a nice foundation to have. Obviously, you should probably be adding something else. To understanding which of these setups to play, but I do think this is just such a good starting point over and over again. We've had one of these every single week that have popped. Right, so that's kind of the timeline of what I want to cover today. I do see some questions to cover wings and not wings, waves. Wings is what got delisted. So we can look at waves. I know this is probably a little bit different than, well, I'll cover these at the end. I don't want to jump around too much. All right, let's start with Bitcoin. Get on kind of the regular agenda, so I stop flipping through charts. Quick shout out to everyone that's in here. What's going on, guys? Shu, welcome to the group. Have a few new guys. Liquid, what's going on? Ryan, Andy, Sky Jones, Islord. All right, what's going on? Hopefully everyone's having a good Friday. A little bit lighter on the crowd today. Wonder why. All right, so big picture Bitcoin. Before let me get some of these lines out of here. Big picture Bitcoin, this is still how I see it. And I think Twitter continues to get a little bit more split. And I kind of like that. I like when sentiment is maybe half and half, bulls and bears. It's a little bit worrisome when everyone's hoping for higher prices or everyone's forecasting higher prices or lower prices. Right now, it seems pretty split. To me, I have a pretty clear rule set, right? This is still our pivot area. And this is around 38.80. As long as we're above 38.80, I continue to really expect the market to be risk on. I expect majors, ETH, ADA, everything to still be doing quite well, right? So as long as Bitcoin, I don't care how many times it bounces here, as long as we're above 38.80, I generally like Bitcoin and I generally like most majors. If we do break below here, I'm thinking the pullback to the 3700s is probably a lot more likely. And the reason I like 3,700, just to be really quick with this one, because we covered it a ton, right? This is our breakout level from last week, right? Or from Monday. That's where we had that major impulsive move. It's also kind of the key resistance until that point, right? So that would be the biggest throwback. I think it's less likely that we do get down there, but if we break 38.80, I think it's probably important to be at least have a general idea of where we could move next, right? That's high time frame support. Not as kind of important to be thinking about short term, but if we break 38.80, that's where we would go. Email J6, welcome guys. So 38.80 to me is still the pivot I'm watching. If we do move up, and I'll look at some smaller time frame stuff, 4,100, I think that's pretty clear. I don't need to cover that. The intraday stuff that I've been watching today, and I think it's been fun to cover. I don't watch small time frame Bitcoin too much, but I have been trying to get a little bit of a read of whether or not we do get a move Friday like we had last weekend, right? So I'm looking at some of these smaller levels, playing around with the level that has been this week's resistance ever since Monday. Let's get this trend line out of the way, is right here. Right, this is pretty much our swing high for Monday. It's also the price level that we've been capped under ever since Monday started. Right, so kind of a nice reference point of every single time price is wicking up in here, we're getting rejected 4 or 5 different times. We had one nasty wick all the way through. Even the price today, that's kind of where that little local top we hit, right? So if I'm thinking smaller time frame, if I'm thinking range, if I'm just looking to get hints on whether or not the move happens on Friday, I would say this 39.60 is probably our immediate resistance. One other little trend line that I've been playing with is right around here. I'm going to make this one dashed, so it kind of sticks out. And we'll see whether or not this one carries too much significance. The way that I'm looking at it right now, right, resistance, resistance. Let's get this one out of the way. And right now it does look like it's flipping to be support. You know, I'm just kind of playing around with some stuff. I'm not actually trading this move, but even if that does happen, right, 39.60 is kind of my confirmation point. So a break above there, any type of 1 hour, 4 hour close, you can see we haven't had one all week. These are all wicks. If we do get a 1 hour close above that, to me, that would kind of be enough of an indication and definitely a big hint that we probably move to 4100s pretty quick, right? So if you are looking at smaller time frame, I think that's a nice way to kind of dissect or break up Bitcoin right there. But big picture, guys, and really what's guiding my alt decisions and kind of my whole portfolio's decisions right now is still wanting to zoom out, be moving a little bit slower, be thinking about higher time frame stuff. 4100s where, email, I'll go back. I wasn't. I might not have showed exactly where I was drawing to. But high time frame, still 3880. This is the pullback if that breaks, and this is the target. Email on which trend line? The second trend line? I wasn't. I was staying consistent, right? Wick to wick here and extending. Sometimes it's not so clear because I'll right, that's wick to wick. I always stay objective with that. It might not look clear. Sometimes I do that so I don't have to extend it, right? These are my two support touches, or these are my two touches I'm going off of. Right, wick to wick. I know it goes through right there. Yeah, just a coincidence. That is a good point to bring up, though. All right. If anyone didn't catch that, what he was talking about, if you are drawing trend lines, I use them sparingly. I don't think there's anything wrong with trend lines. Some people really don't like trend lines. I've never understood that. But I always try to stay consistent with connecting wick to wick or candle body to candle body. I think both can work, but I would just definitely stay consistent. Otherwise, you'll draw what you want to see. Anyways, moving on, trying to get a hint of whether or not Bitcoin does move up. And to me, lower time frames are kind of suggesting it does. One of the charts that I think is going to be really fun to watch this weekend, because it did pop off on Friday of last week, right? That was the 16th. Monday was the 18th. So really Friday, Saturday night was ETH. Breaking above 0.034 ETH for me is bullish, right? Triggering. And I'm targeting 0.041, right? That's the fork hype of last time. Big picture zooming out, in case anyone was unfamiliar. That's a quick breakdown. So far, this one stopped at kind of a little mid-trade resistance. This area, I'm going to call this just a swing high. It's halfway to the trade, right? So we have 10%. We have another 10% till the final target. That's really where we've been stuck all weekend. But if we zoom out a little bit, right, I think there's probably a few different ways to look at this. You can either look at this as, some people like to say that's a pennant, right? Some people like to, you could use this horizontal level. I think both are fine. The way that I was actually looking at this, just trying to, get a couple different looks, I think it's helpful to step back sometimes and look at the chart a different way, is looking at it from kind of the pattern or the fractal we got from EOS last week. Not last week, the beginning of the month, right? So ETH, as it's consolidating, you can call this, like I said, you can call this a pennant, right? This is the flag going into that. Generally, it's going to be a continuation pattern. It looks like that's what we're getting. But even kind of without it being a pennant and just looking at a concept we've hit a few different times in the past month of price just kind of, sometimes you have these smackdowns right at resistance, right? Wicks hit it, immediately we move lower. This time we have the wick, and then we kind of consolidate this resistance. If we look at smaller time frames, you can see the difference where all my squiggles are. Right? You can see the difference there versus the last kind of touches of this trend line resistance that we hit. First touch, move immediately down. Second touch, move immediately down. This time really consolidating right at that resistance. Right? If I compare that to, and this is different time frame obviously, but if I look at how EOS traded after a very similar move, over a higher time frame going into February, right? Same kind of thing. Sure, you could have called this a pennant, but every single time, right, it was getting smacked down by that resistance, smacked down. This last time, it's just kind of consolidating right at resistance, and then it breaks up. So that's what I'm looking at for ETH. It's really just a hint. I'm not trading off of this chart or this pattern specifically. I think this chart, kind of my chart, is still a better guide. It gives me a better picture of what I'm aiming for. But if you are looking smaller time frame, I do think, potentially this is kind of the first area where I might actually add on to my trade, right? Have kind of a second smaller trade going here. If I am getting hints that, right, let's say this is my original trade. If I am getting hints that this, is ready to break up and is ready to kind of break out of this consolidation and move higher, right? I think a setup like that makes a lot of sense, even at current prices, right? Looking for another 9-10%, giving myself room, maybe 2 or 3% below this consolidation. To me, it is hinting that it's going to break up, right? So just another way to really look at ETH. I know patterns work for some people, trend lines work for some people like fractals, right? I like to use a combination. Generally, I'm just going to be using the horizontal levels, but I think that does make sense. The way I'd be setting that up, right? I just showed you on kind of the bigger chart, but if I'm doing it from a clean chart, right? Aiming for that 9 or 10% up to the 0.041 level, giving myself probably a little bit of room below these most recent swing lows, right? That'd be playing it pretty tight, 2 or 3%, even if I gave myself a full 3.5 below these swing lows, right? Right. I still like that. A nice 2.5, you know, it's a smaller swing, but it's really the first hint where price is giving me kind of a chance that I think it's ready for continuation, that I think we can move higher, right? A lot of different things you could look at here. So I still like ETH. General thoughts without getting into the too small time frame stuff. My plan on this just has been to hold exact same as December. I want to hold until it hits the final target. The fork's coming up. It just kind of has everything on its side. Unless Bitcoin does something crazy like just nukes here and goes back below 3880 and really pulls everything down with it, right? If Bitcoin dribbles down here and things start to get sketchy, then okay, maybe I have to bail on ETH, right? But for right now, I generally want to be holding on to that and kind of not getting shaken out of this play. So that's ETH, guys. ADA, exact same thing, although ADA definitely looks a lot more shaky. It was the biggest dropper in the past 24-48, only a 4% down move, and it's still moving in the right direction. I'm not going to cover this one just because I've hit it in so many different streams, right? But general thought is I still just think it's the best priced major. I think the price it's at currently still makes sense for an ad similar to ETH. It's not kind of the perfect entry, but I still think that based on where other majors are trading, and as long as Bitcoin's above 3880, I want to stay long ADA too. So I imagine this shook some people out. I still like ADA and ETH. I think they actually both still look pretty damn good. So that's the major outlook. EOS, Litecoin, everything else, not too interesting to me. The two that we've talked about as kind of being weaker or hedges, Tron and Ripple. Tron just kind of continues to dribble down here. I don't think Tron gets really interesting until it's way down here. Right? If it gets down there, who knows, then I'll play it. If not, that's fine. Ripple, the only reason I haven't covered this one either, I just think it's also kind of a really, really ugly setup right along with Tron. Right? Most majors have done pretty well. XRP and Tron are just kind of sinking, really, really low volatility, not a clean setup, no nice horizontal levels, not interested in either. That's just why we haven't covered them. Someone asked why no XRP. It's nothing personal. I just don't see a trade there. All right, let's look at two trades, Binance plays that have been active, two that I've liked a lot, and then we'll look at new ideas, right, or updates on the ones that aren't moving so well. VET, you guys know this idea. I think along with Go, it was probably my favorite. I also like the look of Key, but I think this one and Go are still two of my favorites. I would even say they're still two of my favorites. VET, what I was looking for, very similar thing here with MFT, in that it's starting to form this rounded bottom, almost formed it all the way, right? So that's kind of why I liked that support level. Invalidates, same exact rule set as having kind of a cycle low setup. It's invalid if these lows or this rounded bottom breaks, and it finally got its 10-15% push today, right? So up 10-15%. I still like 128 sats as a target. Hasn't hit that first target yet. I do think if it gets up here, right, I will be taking partial profits, but I do think if it gets up there, there's a nice chance that it can break through this, right? We have had 1, 2, 3, 4. Gosh, those numbers are terrible. If it breaks through there, I'm looking for 158. So I still like VET a lot. I'm really glad this one finally took off. I know it took a little bit of patience there. 2 weeks, I guess, of patience in February. Liked this one. So it's nice to kind of see that patience, that conviction work out. Once again, another cycle low play. Right? Simple setup there. I know quite a few of you guys got on that one as well. And then RCN, the best news of the day. This was a play from December. One of the first ones to move in December to the 30% level. Right? Hit the first target. And this one's going to keep going. The reason this pumped, I'm sure some of you guys have seen it or heard about it. The Palm Beach group, they put out a lot of pumps. Historically, they just have kind of a bad reputation, a bad name for that. They're not even, don't even try to hide it, right? Very, very clearly will kind of tell people to buy aggressively at one price and kind of hype up the announcement and say, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, things like that. So it does create an environment where, low liquid, not as liquid coins just pump. right? I think they have something like 50,000 or some ridiculous amount of people that buy this report, and it comes out like once or twice every, I don't even know what it is, but literally they manufacture pumps, right? They'll wait to announce one coin and they say buy, right? So obviously that pumped it, but the setup and what we covered it, a week or two ago, it worked when that wasn't the pump. And once again, cycle low helped us kind of position. For those of you guys that caught this, it looks like you guys bought literally kind of the cycle low or the bottom, right? So it's just another one of those times where positioning into something that makes a lot of sense from a technical perspective just kind of does set you up, whether it's the Palm Beach or whether alts all start moving well. Generally getting in at cycle lows is going to put you in a good position to succeed, right? Whatever kind of causes that move. So really happy to see that one work out twice in 2 months. It's kind of like the cork chain play, I guess you could say, of 2019. The plays that are a little bit more shaky, I hinted at this at the beginning of the stream, and this is key. I do still think it could work out. All right, guys, we have our September 12th low back here. Right here, August, September 12th lows. Very, very similar to RCN, right? Idea is just buying those cycle lows, and if it breaks it, I'd want to cut. We're at that 4% level right now. So if we look at yesterday, we did just have our first 4-hour our daily close below that level. It's the lowest daily close ever. So that to me makes this idea invalid. I would, I personally just if I'm following the rule set, right, that invalidates it. All of a sudden though, I mean, if it moves another 2 or 3% and closes back up, it's going to remind me a lot of QuantStamp, right? So QuantStamp actually did this. If you guys don't remember, in December, this was how we originally played QuantStamp, right? Swing high target 1 was right there. QuantStamp was a setup, have the September 12th low. This all happened. Use the support again. Once it broke this level, right? I didn't have a play yet, but after I saw price kind of break this level, it closes below, and then it reclaimed, right? To me, then the play is back on. And now I kind of have a new little area where I can understand where to put my stop. Right, so now that that level a little bit lower than cycle low has been established, okay, I have my stop below the swing low right there, entry cycle low, aim for the swing high. I think something like that could work out with key. But for right now, until we kind of have that work out, I'm not sure I want to be holding on to something below cycle low. Just my general thoughts, guys. Obviously, that doesn't need to be your plan for it, but that's kind of how I like to play these, and that's what's worked in the past. Right? So once this happens, sure, if it recovers, then I can set it up like this. Right? Once again, kind of targeting that level with a stop below this swing low. But for right now, I don't like key. Right? I just don't like when things close kind of below the key support for me. So I would like for that one to work out. Maybe it still will. Maybe that's playing a little bit too tight, but that's fine for right now. I want to be cutting things kind of immediately when they're not going my way. Go chain, I know this one has also been a little bit shaky right along cycle low support, but it's still closing above. So for me, this is kind of the maximum point of financial opportunity. It's closest to where I'm wrong, right? If Go has a similar thing like key, right? If it closes like 2-3% lower, then I don't like it. But for right now, I'm still aiming for first and second target right here. We talked about in the last stream of, I think it could still work out, guys, but it's just not the trading style I generally like. And I was looking for like a 1-day swing for a really quick trade. Now that it didn't work out, I just feel maybe a little bit too shaky for my trading style to be holding on to something at all-time high. I would much rather this thing pull back to normal levels. I don't like BNB anymore, so it's right on the retest rate where we entered, actually up slightly. But I don't like this one. It's not something I'm going to be updating. It's just not a play that I have confidence in, and not something I kind of want to share. What else? Have to hit 1 or 2 more that I know I've covered and people had questions on. NEM is the last one. I know some of you guys are still holding on to this one. This is another one that the retest failed. Some people got out at break even. I liked it for the quick 4 or 5% loss. But, I don't have too many new thoughts on this one, guys. For me, the play is kind of dead after this retest fails. Sure, it could work out. You do have the trend on your side now as alts do well, but, every once in a while, or even if it's 3 out of 5 or 3 out of 10, I should say, right? Some alts I'm going to have to get stopped out of. And I like to keep it at the 3 or 5% level. right? So that way when we have, you know, half of our plays hitting like RCN or VET or whatever it is, it really kind of makes up for those. So a couple of these are shaky, but I wanted to update them anyways and give my thoughts. What else do we have? Shub, one MPX and BTT. I'll definitely look at those. What else do we have? Someone wanted wings. I can look at all those. Email. Speaking of time frames, I'll do that one as I look up BTT. Cough's going away, guys. Cough is going away. All right. BTT is at the bottom, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Shub, I don't have too many thoughts on BTT. I went over this one a stream a few days ago. I know you're new, so you weren't in that stream. But my thoughts on this is, I mean, there's just not a lot of price history for me to play with. I think really the only thing that I could chart up is that it's consolidating, right? We are having kind of a series. We're starting to trade in a tighter range. We are having higher lows and also lower highs, right? Generally, I want to kind of. I don't see a very, very clear play here for me. I like to be playing things along cycle lows. It doesn't mean that you can't trade it. It's just not a setup for me. I've covered kind of why. On Raven, it's the exact same thing. And sometimes this works out for me, sometimes it doesn't, right? I didn't play Raven on this massive run, right? So obviously I missed out on what could have been a killer trade. But now that Raven's been on exchange for 3 or 6 months, I think if it gives me this price, I think I'll have a hell of a trade on Raven. For me, BTT is a little bit still too new. It's not really a play that technically makes a lot of sense for me yet. If we have a little bit more price history or, it's just still really a hype play, right? It's not like there's just too many established price levels. It's almost entirely hype still, right? I guess you could say if it breaks out of this consolidation, this is a very rough chart. If it breaks out of this consolidation, sure, maybe I'm interested in a play, right? Very, very rough setup of how I'd be looking, aiming for this swing high or this swing high. Right, just the swing highs from consolidation, right? But I mean, this is really rough. I personally am not taking the play, but you could. I don't see a setup there for me. MPS. Let me get wings real quick, guys. Wings. Waves. Waves is the one we wanted, right? I believe so. This is pretty insane. So waves relative to almost every other alt, right? I think most other alts are still down here. This is kind of our September 12th or August cycle low, right? A lot of alts are still playing in this area. Waves had that massive run December and really still hasn't cooled off from that, right? So I guess just kind of be looking at this chart in isolation. I don't think it's too helpful to be looking at it as kind of its price to other charts. Current support, what was the question here for waves? Someone had a good question on this one. Hugh, looking at waves. What do you think of waves? Seems like there's decent support at 0.07, 70,000 sats. Yeah, Hugh, it does look like that after the pump, right? The thing to note here is, I guess it kind of reminds me of Tron. I kind of view that as a descending triangle. It makes me think of Tron, right? So if we look at Tron versus all the other majors, right? Tron had that just massive run from December. And most other majors are still kind of playing in this playground. So, even when Tron looked good up here, I just kind of didn't want to touch it because my expectant, if I look at this in 10 different markets and in 10 different cycles, generally I just think Tron's going to trend down to here. Right? That's kind of why I've been wanting to be hands off on Tron. My first thought on looking at this is if most other alts are still around here, right? The best performing ones are like right here, which is swing high from their cycle low. Right? So if any coin's done really well, it's up like 50, 60%. Right, to its most recent kind of cycle low here. And this thing is up, 2 or 3x. I do give a little bit less weight to this support. I'm going to want to play this a little bit more cautiously, right? I'd be interested if it trickles down to kind of where the swing high was and that previous swing high turns support, right? That kind of play would interest me. I think playing something right on 70,000 sats is it doesn't mean it can't work. Sure, it could work, and that level's definitely being defended, right, with good volume. But when something is this much of an outlier, and I'm not sure why it is, I kind of want to let it fall back to earth, and generally kind of be looking for the RCN or the DMT or the Loom or whatever it is that I can be buying down here, looking for that, right? Like if I look at this and I compare it to other alts, and sure, I could be wrong here and this thing runs for another 3x while most alts are still at 30%. But if I try to think of like upside of buying at 70,000 sats from here, right? It's like, I don't know, do I expect this thing to do another 50% as it's already 4x higher than every other alt in this cycle? It could. I don't know what's driving that, but I'd want to play it a little more conservative. So I'd want to be waiting until we got back down to earth where most other coins are. If I was playing it though, right, I'd probably want to wait for this resistance to be broken, right? I don't want to anticipate that a descending triangle is going to break up. I know it is crypto. I know alts have been doing well, but still, I kind of want to play by the rules here. So I would be looking for something much lower, personally, Hugh, but I like to play alts a little more conservatively. Hopefully that makes sense. Encash, token release coming up. Not sure, CJ. Not sure. Qtum, Quantstamp, TNT. All right, Rozier, let me hit those, and then I'm going to wrap this up, guys. 30 minutes. And I just don't have a new idea today. I know just getting back into the swing of things, I really just wanted to be caught up, right, and just have a really good grasp of what Bitcoin and ETH we're going to do. So I know that's kind of the focus today, and we've bounced around a ton of other coins. Let me hit those just because we have covered those. So since we are still getting really nice signs from cycle low plays and from the RCNs, the Quantstamps, I still think Quantstamp looks great. I still do want to be focused on these that haven't moved. Even if they haven't moved, I still really like DMT, right? I think it's a candidate that it could really do the exact same thing as RCN, not because I expect Palm Beach to pump it, not because I expect it to do it tomorrow, but just because if I look at VET and I look at Quantstamp, if I look at everything that we've traded in the past month or two that's done very well, this is probably, matches those characteristics better than anything else. It has everything that those charts have. I would say it resembles kind of maybe RCN the closest, right? So no new thoughts here on DNT, Rozier, other than I still really like it. It's still a high conviction play for me. Obviously, it doesn't mean it's going to work, but if we do break down, right, I'd be closing out at the 5 or 10. This one would be like 20%. You could probably have an earlier stop loss, maybe 5 or 6% below cycle lows, right? But I still really like that. Quantstamp, I covered a second ago. Let me be quick with this one just because there's no new thoughts. Right? But just like RCN, it's the exact same play that we've played in December, same play that worked out in January. Right? Same thing. I would be aiming for the same thing. Nothing from these plays has changed or made my conviction or anything like that be less. If anything, they just continue to kind of be repeatable setups. And we're also seeing, from the one or two that don't work, if we have a few work out a week and one doesn't work out a week, we're also seeing very, let's say this does go south. It's just such an easy cut, right, for like the 3 or 4% loss. It's just these kind of setups I would play over and over again. If I kind of log into Binance each week and I have to pick 2 or 3 plays, right, or whatever it is, these are the things I'm going to focus on as opposed to kind of, Hugh, to pick on your play a little bit. I'm not saying you suggest this play, but just to pick on the coin you wanted a question on. Waves. Like if I every single week log in and I want to pick 3 or 4 ideas that make sense. I want to manage risk and I also want to be looking for upside. I just think if I'm picking plays in this area, right, the DNTs, the Quantstamps, the RCNs, I just generally think I'm going to do better 9 times out of 10. There is that one time where this thing just keeps running and continues to be the outlier. Sure. In that 1 out of 10 scenario, I kind of just say congrats to everyone that caught it. So I think Waves could still do very well. If I look at QuantStamp and those other ones, I just like that positioning more. Right? Not telling anyone to be in those, but I just want to be sharing my research on kind of what's working. Right? So nothing new there for those. Rozier, I'm not going to mark up QDM just because I want to hit one other question from someone else. BQX. All right, guys. I think that's it. Shub, I will hit MPX tomorrow. Guys, I'm going to be streaming all weekend just because I missed yesterday's, and I expect there to be nice action this weekend. Right? So we'll have a Saturday stream, Sunday stream too. But big picture, the takeaways from the stream is I just wanted to get kind of one more update on Bitcoin is we're still hanging above 3880, right? It drives all the decisions for any of these alts, right? If Bitcoin breaks 3880 here, a lot of those alt plays we just looked at probably off the table and probably sink and definitely have a higher chance of hitting their stops if we move down here, right? If Bitcoin breaks 3880, I'm looking at 3700 as support. As long as this pivot's holding, and so far, 4-hour and daily closes are, right? 3960 is a line in the sand. Any 1 hour close above 3960, and I'm thinking 4100 is kind of that final target that we get hit over the weekend. Right? That would be pretty fun because it would also probably be the push that gets ETH to its final target. It would probably be the push that finally can help ADA get some life. Right? So that would make for a really fun weekend. I'll be online all weekend to be tracking it with you guys, to be trading it. But that's all I got for today. I don't want to push it too hard. It's nice to be back. Thank you, everyone, for the kind messages. One thought here. If you did send me a DM about something else, I'll do my best, guys. But there's been a little bit of an uptick in DMs about just random questions. I do my best with that, but that's just one area I'm never really going to be able to keep up with. Trust me, I'm very respectful of everyone's questions and everyone's time. I will always do my best to answer your DMs, but there are just like sometimes when they just really pile up. So if I don't reply to your DM, please don't take it personal. I will do my best. If it's something, massively important or I've missed a few of your DMs, I'll definitely try to answer it, but be mindful of that. They just pile up for me. So I have a lot of things I want to get done. Can't be in there all day. All right. That's all I have, guys. That's Bitcoin. ETH is kind of the important breakdown today. ADA I still like. I don't have any new Binance plays just because I don't want to be adding on too much when we're flat, but for the Binance plays that I've covered already, the DNTs, the QuantStamps, the cycle low plays of the world, I still like those the best. Right? It's what's working. It's not always going to be the case. Trust me, if you're with me for 3 or 4 months, my frameworks do change, but for right now, this is what I like. Right? That's all I got, guys. Have a good Friday. Have a good weekend. Stay well. Stay healthy. That's the key takeaway this week for everyone. Stay healthy. I'm out, guys. Peace.